Hello everyone, and welcome to this rhetorical analysis of Weezer's California Kids. Before we get started, a quick reminder to the teachers out there to check out teachargument.com for the corresponding lesson plans and to get tons of free and awesome English teacher stuff. If you are an English teacher and you haven't been there yet, it's definitely worth pausing this video and heading over to check it out. Also, if you dig the video, please subscribe to our channel. It's a big help. Okay, now let's jump right in. As the song begins, before the lyrics and the instruments and anything, we hear seagulls. This is already important. Why? Well, it's because of their connotation. So here's a mini lesson for you. We have two important terms to consider. The first is denotation. A denotation is a literal or primary meaning of a word or a thing. So hearing seagulls and thinking of the medium to large size bird that is usually white or gray, that inhabits areas near the sea, that is a denotation, right? It is very literal. Denotation's counterpart is known as connotation, and connotation is very important for literary purposes, for literary analysis, and also for rhetorical analysis. Connotation is the idea or feeling that is invoked by that word or that thing. So when you hear seagulls, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? What is the feeling that's evoked there? It might be the beach, right? It might be suntan lotion and the boardwalk and relaxation. It may vary slightly from person to person, but all of those feelings bundled together, bundled into the sound of seagulls, that is the connotation, right? And before the song even begins, that is what Weezer, the speaker here, has chosen to wash over us, their audience. Now, before we move forward, this seems like a good time to discuss the speaker, the audience, the message, and the purpose. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. So, as is always the case with popular songs, there are many ways to slice the rhetorical triangle. We may consider the singer, Rivers Cuomo, the speaker, and the specific hypothetical person that he has written the song for and is singing it to, his audience, and his message, something soon to be determined. Or we might consider the speaker the fictional character who is singing the words, which isn't necessarily Weezer's lead singer, Rivers Cuomo. It could be someone else, right? Someone fictional. The audience, it could be, again, a specific and unknown person that speaker is speaking to, and a message that we are yet to hear. Or the speaker might be Weezer, the band, the entity, the folks who produced this song and are putting the song out there. The audience, they're most likely listeners, they're fans, the folks who buy their records. And the message, well, we don't know it yet, but we will know it soon as we dissect things further. So for the sake of this analysis, we're going to go ahead and go with Weezer as our speaker and their fans as their target audience. And we'll hone in on who that audience is in a bit when we can get there based on details in the song. Why is this the setup we're going to use? Because in this case, it is the most likely fit. When we're analyzing other artists, like Taylor Swift, let's say, it's sometimes easier to draw connections between Taylor and an ex-boyfriend that she is talking about quite deliberately in the song. Here, Weezer is doing something a little bit different, right? They're singing to, perhaps, us, their fans, their listeners. And as for their message and their purpose, they are on their way. So the music begins, and it has this sing-songy, childlike nature to it. It's almost like it's being played on a xylophone, and that's very deliberate. It's very important. Just as deliberately crafted visuals like advertisements and billboards can pack a strong rhetorical punch, the same is true for audio. They could have just as easily played the same notes on, say, a violin or an electric guitar with a lot of distortion. But it's easy to see how each of these options would have significantly impacted the meaning of the song. The effect would be totally different. I would have altered the mood, the feelings already introduced by the seagulls, right, by the connotations we discussed, would be altered, would be affected in a very interesting way. And the sing-songy notes, as they're played, we get images, we get flashed images that we associate with the sounds of seagulls, beach, palm trees, waves crashing, seagulls, etc. So just before the song kicks off, we get a glimpse of the song title, California kids. There are plenty of connotations that are associated with California that we've already seen flashed on the screen, right? The world-famous beaches, the laid-back lifestyle, the speaker has already laid the foundation for us, the listener. Now, let's talk about the word kids. It's not just California. The song title is not California. They could have done that, but instead they say California kids. So we know this song is about a kind of person or kind of people, perhaps. And it is not the California adolescence, which is much more scientific and refers to a much different and specific kind of person than just kids, let's say. Think about the denotation of the word kids, right, as opposed to that of the word adolescent. The same is true for the word children. They could have said California children, but the song title would have had an entirely different connotation, even if the denotation would have been similar. It's a very deliberate choice. Okay, now let's actually listen to some of the lyrics and see if we can unpack a bit more of the argument itself.
When you wake up, cobwebs on your eyelids, stuck in rigor mortis. Whoa.
Two things for us to unpack. First, the lyrics, when you wake up, cobwebs on your eyelids, stuck in rigor mortis. So what does the speaker mean by when you wake up? He's probably not being literal here, right? It's not waking up, the literal definition, but rather the symbolic definition. Waking up as in suddenly taking a moment to consider your life through clear eyes or fresh eyes. The kind of waking up you do when you are, let's say, sitting in a macroeconomics class in your sophomore year of college and you think to yourself, how did I end up here? Why am I here? Why am I majoring in business? It's much more likely that that is the brand of waking up that the singer is referring to here, rather than the literal counterpart. And waking up is followed by some powerful imagery. Cobwebs on your eyelids. Not something that happens when you sleep for 8 hours, right? You typically do not wake up, I hope, with cobwebs on your eyelids. Something that happens when you've been asleep or out of touch or living your life with metaphorically closed eyes for a very, very, very long time, maybe cobwebs on your eyelids. And the final bit, stuck in rigor mortis. Now, rigor mortis refers to the stiffening of the joints and the muscles of a body hours after death. That's what rigor mortis is, right? It sets in after a body has died, the way that the body stiffens. Do people wake up after rigor mortis? No, not literally, because they're dead. But in the first line of the song, here's the idea. You've been living your life without really living it. You've been asleep, metaphorically speaking, for quite some time. And suddenly, you've opened your eyes, right? You have cobwebs on your eyelids. That's how long it's been. But now that your eyes are open, that you're awake, you are perhaps realizing some of the mistakes that you've made moving along this journey of your life as you have. But how easy is it to spring up, to take action, and to correct your path? Well, it isn't easy at all. Most of the time, when you have this awful moment in your sophomore year in that macroeconomics class, let's say, when you're majoring in business, which you hate, most of the time, people wake up and they feel that awful feeling, but they remain stuck, right? They are stuck in rigor mortis. They don't change course. They think, well, I'm already a sophomore, 2 more years to go. The semester's halfway through. I've already come this far. I may as well carry on in this way. And for obvious reasons, from an outside perspective, that doesn't make any sense. It's a bad idea. It's only your sophomore year. You have your whole life ahead of you. But that isn't so easy to say when you are stuck in this metaphorical rigor mortis, right? Bones, joints, and muscles stiff. It is a lovely metaphor. Thank you, Weezer. Now, before we carry on, let's take a quick moment to consider the person on the screen. The visual rhetoric here is very interesting, if nothing else. The guy is sitting alone at a table in what looks like a diner. Does he look like he just woke up? Like he just came to his senses in his life's path? Not yet, but keep an eye out for it because we may see some of that in a bit. And notice the picture of Jesus behind him. What does Jesus have to do with anything? Why is that picture there? Is it possible that this is an allusion to resurrection or rebirth, which is one of the most powerful notions associated with Jesus? One of the most blatant metaphors that's already sort of cropping up in this song, right? Of waking up with cobwebs on your eyes, and simultaneously the feeling of being stuck in rigor mortis. Okay, that's already so interesting. It's getting good.
Just get going till you hit the ocean and you turn Californian.
So first, the call to action. Just get going. This is different than just close your eyes or just go back to sleep or just keep on being a plastic water bottle on the river of life. Instead, the speaker says just get going. And this implies that you have a choice in the matter, that you're feeling like you're stuck in rigor mortis, but really you have a choice in whether or not you are going to be stuck, right? And the best course of action is simply to take action, to get up and go. And where should you go? According to the speaker, to the ocean. Why? Well, if we're following the first thread mentioned in the analysis, it's because the ocean shares a lovely connotative meaning with seagulls, palm trees, and so on. Saying get going until you hit the ocean is akin to the speaker arguing you have a choice, you know you aren't happy in your current state of affairs, and while you feel like you are stuck and you are stressed out and you are miserable, there is a way out, and it's relaxing. There is a sunny, happy place just waiting for you. You can go there if you want. Anyone can. It's the ocean. It belongs to all of us. Now, if we follow the second thread, the Jesus thread, we can read the ocean in a slightly different way. So in literature, bodies of water are often symbolic for rebirth, for things like baptism and new life. So the speaker's suggestion to get going until you hit the ocean can also be a call to action that prompts the audience to begin again, to start over. And what happens when you hit the ocean? When you are dunked in the holy water, that is, in this case, the Pacific Ocean? Well, according to the speaker, you turn Californian. So what does that mean? Some questions for you to consider. What are the connotations of turning Californian? Is this a compelling idea? Do you even want to be Californian? Is this something that a lot of people might consider a positive thing? To what kind of an audience would this be most appealing? Is it an audience that's already Californian? Is it an audience that's stressed out? Is it an audience that's 15 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old? Who is it that Weezer is singing this song to? And then, of course, there is the implication that Californian is something that you can become. You don't have to be born Californian, right? You can turn Californian. And perhaps it's even possible to be born in California and not be Californian yet in this symbolic sense. It's easy to imagine someone's parents saying, you know, she was born in California, but man, she is a New Yorker. She has been a New Yorker her whole life. And if they said something like that, they might mean that she has not demonstrated the qualities of rest and relaxation and beach life often associated with California, but rather that stressed, on-the-go, busybody attitude associated with New York City. So in short, the suggestion is that being Californian can be a choice and isn't necessarily a static thing.
You don't have to have the answers. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
The lyrics reinforce this idea, suggesting to the audience, who is likely stressed and wishing he or she could baptize him or herself in the Pacific Ocean to start anew, stress-free, and Californian, that he or she does not, quote, have to have the answers. Don't you worry, don't you worry. So simultaneously, the music video itself begins to do some funny things. The man on screen seems to have some kind of a flashback to this guy, a man covered in cannoli cream, and to this waitress holding a tray of cannolis. So why the flashback? Is this a flash of memory to a previous mistake that he's made? Or is it a flashback to a previous life before he found the Pacific Ocean and allowed himself to trade stress for relaxation to turn Californian? Let's keep going and see if we can learn a little bit more about this situation.
Gonna be alright if you're on a sinking ship. The California kids will throw you a lifeline.
Okay, again, two streams to follow and analyze here. First, the lyrics, which state, it's gonna be alright if you're on a sinking ship, which again reinforces our previous analysis, that there is, in fact, a way out, that there is an option for salvation, to change the course of your life, to make things better, and that even though you may be on a sinking ship, you don't have to stay on that ship. That line is followed by the claim that the California kids will throw you a lifeline. Meaning what? Meaning, most likely, that it is in your power to turn Californian. That California and the California kids, that is, everything associated with this Californian symbolism, will help to see you through it. Simultaneously, on screen, we see more flashes of memory, building closer ties between the original guy that was on screen and this long-haired fellow who is smashing cannolis into his face. We don't quite have an answer, maybe we don't need one yet according to the lyrics, but we don't yet have an answer as to whether this is a memory of perhaps some prior made poor life decisions or a previous life in general, but the connection is still clear. This may be one of the things that has him running to the ocean and striving to turn Californian. Maybe this is something he's running away from.
And if you're up all night, thinking about something you did, the California kids will show you the sunshine.
To reiterate, if you're up all night thinking about something you did, the California kids will show you the sunshine. In other words, that previous life, whatever all that nasty cannoli smashing might symbolize, whether it was last week, last year, literally a lifetime ago, if it's haunting you, if you are up all night thinking about it, the speaker tells his audience to rest assured it does not have to be that way forever. That feeling does not have to last forever. There is California. There is sunshine. There is a way out. And now it bears mentioning that all of those cannoli snapshots from that long-haired mustached man there are actually clips taken from another one of Weezer's most recent music videos, from the song Thank God for Girls. Those are perhaps bad decisions, and here we have an opportunity for starting fresh. Nice.
In your bare feet in mid-January.
So firstly, we have this powerful and, in my opinion, pretty awesome juxtaposition here. So what's a juxtaposition? It's when two things are placed closely next to each other for effect. Here, the speaker strengthens his argument by juxtaposing the audience's bare feet with mid-January. Now, where I'm from, mid-January is very cold. And when I think of mid-January, I immediately think of snow and icy roads and having to wear many layers of clothing and perhaps many layers of socks. That is a pretty widespread January feeling. Now, back to our understanding of words and connotations, right? But what happens here when the speaker juxtaposes January with bare feet, he tempts the audience with the promise of a relaxing, warm, and awesome alternative. Why be cold and miserable when you can be warm and happy with your toes in the sand, even in January? Why remain in that awful macroeconomics class when you have options? You have good options that will enhance your happiness and the quality of your life. Now, as that's happening, and as we get the visual reinforcement of a literal beach, we see this guy on the screen apparently haunted by a bag of chips. And we can probably figure out, before going any further, that he looks like he's haunted because, once again, he's having some kind of a flashback to some kind of a bad memory. The thing that is keeping him up all night, right? As mentioned in the lyrics, the thing that's sinking his ship, the thing that he needs California to save him from. Except this time, it's not cannoli, it's not a reference to their Thank God for Girls song and music video, it's something else.
Swimming in the mystery. Whoa.
Okay, so the same visual technique that was used earlier is happening here. We see flashes to this prior memory, and once again, we can confirm that these flashes are allusions to another Weezer song and music video. This one is called King of the World.
Second guessing almost everything. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Well, here it's a little clearer to see the visual representation of a regretful decision. We can interpret it any number of ways. Perhaps the snapshots of devouring cannoli from Weezer's Thank God for Girls was a reference to, let's say, gluttony and lust, whereas this might be a reference to greed of power and material things and potato chips. Who knows? Either way, there is a regretful decision. That's the thread, right? There is a regretful past, and perhaps this feeling that it is inescapable, that those decisions will haunt you forever because you've committed them and they're in your memory and you can't walk away. The audience is worried, and we know this for sure because the speaker is continuously telling the audience not to worry.
It's gonna be alright if you're on a sinking ship. The California kids will throw you a lifeline.
So what next? He seems to have escaped that memory, and as the song and music video progress, he gets closer and closer to the ocean. And yet, the closer he gets, the more of these obstacles he seems to encounter. And each obstacle, it turns out, are glimpses of other Weezer music videos, perhaps glimpses of their past, right? Presumptively symbolic for glimpses of a regretful or worrying past, a life that he wishes he could be reborn from or resurrected from. If you're wondering whether this female bodybuilder is from another Weezer music video, you already know the answer. The answer is yes. That song is LA Girls, and here it seems to be haunting him as well.
And if you're up all night, thinking about something you did.
The flashes to a much younger version of himself imply that this is perhaps a childhood memory, right? That there is some remnants of that kid still here, that California kid, perhaps, dancing on the beach, letting loose, letting the stress melt away, the closer he gets to that ocean. So let's revisit the rhetorical triangle, the triangle we discussed at the beginning of this analysis, and lay the argument out. The speaker is Weezer, the band that is performing the song, or Rivers Cuomo, the singer. We can consider them interchangeable for our purposes here. The audience, it's their fans, particularly a subsection that is perhaps getting older, old enough to feel bogged down in their life choices, to feel stressed or to feel trapped. As it turns out, this is a very popular feeling because we are all human beings, and in modern culture we all make choices. We choose a college, we choose a major, we pursue a career, we are tempted by material things, by salaries. We find ourselves inevitably questioning all of the forks in the road, and it's easy to see how this is a large subsection of their fan base. So it may resound with their fans who are 40 years old, who started listening to Weezer in 1994, and that 40-year-old who feels like he's trapped in his job. It may resound with the college student who is sitting in and hating his or her macroeconomics class. It may resound with a high school student who feels like he or she is trapped in and stressed by a relationship. It is a solid and sweeping target, which is very good for popular music. And the message? Well, the message is a positive one. The message is, it will be all right. That you aren't trapped. That you can indeed turn Californian if you really want to. And for some, simply knowing that hope exists is enough to make them feel good, feel much better. Simply listening to the song, hearing the argument, and being persuaded by our good friend Rivers Cuomo that there is the option to get going until you hit the ocean and you turn Californian is enough. And in that regard, it is a very hopeful message. So, what is the argument's purpose? Is it to make the listener feel good? Sure, probably. That's part of it. Is it to sell albums? Sure, that's definitely part of it too. Is it to expand on Weezer's popularity? Is it to further associate the Weezer brand with that image of hopefulness and turning Californian, like many of their other songs, like Island in the Sun and Beverly Hills? It's interesting how we can place this argument in many different contexts, and in each different context find a nuanced and different purpose. Okay, now for what is probably my favorite moment in the song.
All your old friends chilling back in Boston, you never forgot them. Whoa.
All right, so what's my favorite moment? Is it Rivers Cuomo or his childlike doppelganger there losing consciousness on the sand? No, that's not it, but close. It's that line, all your old friends chilling back in Boston, you never forgot them. So why is that so good? Rhetorically? Because that is the counter-argument. So if you've listened to and you've internalized the speaker's argument as it's been embodied by the lyrics in this song, embodied by everything that we've discussed so far, the most likely counter-argument to the claim that you can simply pick up and go and start over and head to California and turn Californian, it's that it's not so easy, right? In my head, my thoughts, I'm thinking, yeah, that sounds really nice, Rivers, but what about my friends and my family? I can't just abandon them. I just can't pick up and go. That would make me a bad person. Turning Californian is out of the question. But that counterclaim, that counterargument is embedded in those lines, because when Rivers Cuomo says, all your old friends chilling back in Boston, you never forgot them, he is acknowledging that counterargument, the fears and troubles associated with shaking off rigor mortis, with picking up and changing course, with turning Californian. He acknowledges it, and then he derails it. He doesn't say, all your old friends chilling back in Boston, you never needed them anyway. they were part of the problem. That's not what he does. Instead, he assures us that they are still in the picture, that we can still be Californian, can still change course and have all of that good stuff while not having to let go of the good stuff that we've already got. Our friends in Boston, symbolically, they are still our friends in Boston. The only difference is we have changed our lives for the better. Okay, so as the video wraps up, there's one last and very powerful image, and it takes our analysis full circle. The guy that we've been following around throughout the course of this video, he's on the beach, he's close to achieving everything that we've been talking about since the get-go, that rebirth and turning Californian, resurrection, all that stuff. Remember that framed picture of Jesus that we saw at the very beginning? So what better way to drive all of that home than to literally raise a new version of himself from beneath the earth, from beneath the sands of the California beach. It's almost a literal resurrection, and it's an absolutely ridiculous thing to do in the song, but Weezer doesn't care. There's the symbolism. There it is. He is born from the California beach, and he takes the place of his prior version, now Californian. It's a nice way to drive those points home. Nice job, Weezer. The question that remains, that you're now left pondering, as the Californian dons the same glasses worn by his tormented counterpart, how much of him has been left behind? Is he truly Californian now? Is he seeing the world through the same eyes, the same lenses as before, because he put those same glasses back on? Are things truly better, or are they the same, or are they neutrally different? And as we're questioning all of this, two literal California kids run out to the new unearthed protagonist there, and they take him into their custody, and in the last moments of the video, we see through the lens of their phone's camera, right? We see through their eyes. It's so good. So, if you're a teacher, make sure you head over to teachargument.com to grab the corresponding lesson plans, to check out the Teach Argument community, which grants you access to tons of awesome resources. It's literally just a group of awesome and brilliant English teachers. If you are awesome and brilliant, come join the party. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our analyses. I'll see you next time.